Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan with Sage Dynamics.
Allan, Georgia Optics.
And today we're going to be talking about optics for home defense specifically, both on the handgun and on the rifle. Alright, so pretty much everybody knows that a red dot sight is beneficial in a lot of ways. The reasoning behind that is just the way the human eye works. So if we need to use our gun quickly in a self-defense situation, I think most people can agree that you're going to want to be able to use it as quickly as you're legally able to do so. A red dot just makes sense. In a home defense situation, there's a lot of things you can't control. You can't control when it happens. You can't control what part of the house they come in through. You can't control how many of them there are. You probably can't control where you are in the house when it happens. So the more options you have available to you to shorten your response time, better things. When you're actually on the gun, if you have to do sight alignment, we got to pick up that rear sight. We got to pick up that front sight. We have to make our sight alignment. Then we have to focus on the threat. Then we have to come back to that front sight to make our shot, right? Well, with a red dot, we simply look at the threat and we superimpose the red dot onto the threat. So especially for a home defense situation, but self-defense in general, red dot optics, holographic optics make a lot more sense because it gives you a significant edge and it allows you to shoot faster and arguably more accurately. Now, the argument over, or the debate, or the conversation over what firearm to use for home defense is going to go on forever and forever and forever. I am not a shotgun fan. If you know me, you know that. I prefer an AR for home defense for a number of reasons, but an AR only makes sense for certain people. If you have small children, a handgun might be the way to go. I can't scoop up a 3-year-old and work a rifle at the same time. It would be extremely difficult to do so. Even protecting a teenager or shielding your wife or your loved ones, your husband, is going to be difficult with a rifle, whereas a handgun can give you that free hand and still allow you a high degree of accuracy. Now, we factor in optics in the situation. Optics on handguns are still kind of new, but just because it's new doesn't mean it's not going to work. The community has accepted optics on rifles. Everybody's okay with it, and it's starting to go that way with handguns. So what we're going to do today is just talk about some of your options, some of your choices out there when it comes to choosing optics. We'll look at the high-end stuff, high durability stuff, and then we'll look at some more budget stuff that's still just as durable, just maybe not have the same hard use features in mind. Everything in context, if your rifle is going to be dedicated for home defense, you may not need to spend as much money on your optic as long as you can find a very budget but quality minded alternative. Alright, so first up on the handguns, this particular optic, this is an RMR.
This is an RMO5 Amber. It is a 9 MOA dot. It's one of the original RMRs on the market. It's a dual illuminated reticle here, so basically it runs off fiber optics here, and there's a tritium vial housed inside the unit. The way this looks differently than most smaller mini red dots, see how it curves right here on the top? What this does, it actually allows for any impact on the RMR, actually moves down to the side right here and diverts itself away from the glass. So you could even, with the RMR.
Using this for home defense is great. You don't have to turn it on. You don't have to worry about battery life, as he said. One of the significant drawbacks of this particular type of optic, however, though, is the use of a weapon light is going to wash out a lot of this dot, which kind of negates its use. You'd almost be better served if you're going to have to use a weapon light with traditional iron sights. That's one of the drawbacks to that optic. For general purpose, it's really great. Just me personally, I do not prefer that optic if I'm going to be running a weapon light. Next up, we have the adjustable Triticon.
This is one of the most popular RMRs on the market. This is an RMO6. It is a 3.25 MOA miniature red dot. It has the longest battery life of any red dot on the market in this size, 30,000 hours. Runs off one 2032 battery. This is your adjustability to go down. That's your adjustability to go up. Personally, what I do is actually let it run the whole time. I never turn it off because I want to be ready to go as soon as I pick up the gun. As well, this RMR is just designed like the dual illuminated. This is a adjustable LED version, and same thing with this model. It is shaped this way, so when any impact hits the unit, it diverts the energy to the sides of it. So this basically unit is one of the reasons it's most durable is because when you hit it on something, you won't crack the glass. when anything else that has a curve on top, it doesn't take away the impact of the glass, and it'll actually crack the glass a lot easier. This is a 3.25 MOA dot. You can also get it coming out in about 2 months. You'll be able to get a 1 MOA dot, and also you can get one in a 6.5 MOA here. You'll see on the AR-15 right here.
Now, this is actually my preferred optic. This is what I have on my everyday carry. I also have another one that I use on a rifle, which we'll talk about rifles. The great thing about it, I use the 6.5 MOA dot in mine just because it's about the same width as my front sight post. It's the point of aim I'm used to. What I found, my experience is on handguns, the smaller the dot, the more likely you are to chase the dot. Again, that's range experience, shooting at targets at varied distances. It's obviously in a close quarter situation, such as a home defense situation, wouldn't be nearly that big of an issue because your line of sight to your threat probably isn't going to be any more than 7, 10, maybe 15 yards, depending on how ballin' your house is. One thing to factor into it is battery life. My rule of thumb is every time, my birthday comes once a year, I change the batteries out whether I think they need it or not. Every year I just do that. If you want to get really super technical about it and you don't want to waste a lot of money, you can take that battery out, keep it in your range bag. When you go to the range bag, you put in your range battery, and when you get home, you put the other battery back in. That's kind of a pain in the ass, but it's something you can do. For home defense, this is great. The only issue, again, that you can possibly have with it is making sure you have it in that adjusted sweet spot for brightness. So that's something you definitely need to practice with in the house. Make sure that the dot is not going to bloom. It's not going to be set too bright for low light conditions. Now, there are other budget options for pistol optics. There are the JP Enterprises J-Point. I have one of those. They're all acrylic. They're super lightweight. Not that weight's going to be a significant issue with something that small, and super durable, so that's a really good choice. You also have one made by, I believe, EOTech makes one, and then Vortex makes a very durable, budget-minded optic. If you're going to have the handgun milled to accept it, you're going to have to find someone out there that'll mill, obviously, for your choice in optic. My personal advice is save the money, spend the money, buy once. Trijicon really is that's it. The loophole delta points are also very durable. I'm preferential to the Trijicons because just in my experience, they've held up longer, they've been more durable, and they've taken a lot more abuse, and I've not had to send them in for servicing. Now, when it comes to the rifle, be it if you're going to use a shotgun for home defense, if you're going to use an AR for home defense, an AK, anything in that family, and I strongly recommend you do if your personal life permits it. You got to run an optic. An optic is highly recommended because it increases your effectiveness. The first choice we have right here is this Trijicon.
This right here is an RX30. This is one of the first original non-battery powered 1x magnified optics on the market. This is obviously built by Trijicon. RX30 also has a 42mm objective here. It's actually not a sealed unit, so you couldn't submerge underwater 40 meters like you could the SRS. This is the newer version that came out last year. Instead of having an amber 6.5 or 4.5 MOA dot, this is the new green in a 6.5 MOA. Comes with a standard TA51 mount, Colt knobs. You can also get a arms quick detach mount as well with it. It just depends if you're a quick detach guy or not.
So this is a really good optic choice. You don't have to worry about batteries. It's got a really good field of vision. You can run it really close to the rear flip down sight, or you can run it real far forward if you want to open up your field of vision on either side of the optic. Works really well with weapon lights, just from experience with the older versions. And I know if the older versions worked with weapon lights, I don't think the new versions are going to have any issue. It's not like they're going to go down in quality. Next up, just taking a look at another Trijicon product, the SRS-02.
This is the SRS-02 by Trijicon. It is one of my favorite optics for an AR platform. The only problem is it's not cheap. You're looking at retail about $1,200 on this unit right here. This is a Bow Bro quick detach mount. One finger in, pop it off. It only takes one hand to actually take the unit off, not two. It runs off a 1AA battery for 12,000 hours. But the best part about this unit is you don't need to run this battery during the day. You only run the battery at night or indoor, because it converts automatically over to the solar panel. So if I was to take this gun right now and walk outside one step, it would convert over like that just to the solar panel. I, just like the RMR, the RMO6 I showed you earlier on my FN45, I would never turn this off. I would change the battery on this every year. You only have about 9,000 hours in 1 year. Another thing this one does, a lot of people don't realize, this has a special lens in the front. See how this lens is dropped in like this, not flat? It's actually angled up. It's a special lens to decrease the tunnel effect of almost every red dot on the market. So this is also the only red dot that you don't get the tunnel effect when you look down it.
I've wanted to get my hands on one of these for a while. I just haven't kind of pulled the trigger on getting one. I like these a lot because they're solar powered. You know, if you're out in the daylight or whatever, it's going to run off the sunlight. It extends your battery life. It also has an internal AA, which I think it's like 20,000 hour battery life? 12,000 hour battery life. The great thing about that, and one complaints that people had in the past with like the Trijicon ACOG system, is they don't do well in extreme low light situations. You don't get a lot of super glow, or in extreme high daylight situations that depending on which reticle you're using in an ACOG, it may actually bloom to a degree that makes it a little difficult to use. This system, best of both worlds, you got a really good dot. The dot's not prone to blooming, and even when transitioning from, I was just trying it myself, I was aiming for a dark spot in the room and then aiming right out the window towards sunlight. Refresh rate's really good on the dot movement, and it doesn't have, there's no stutter between darkness to light. So if you're going through a lit room right into a dark room, or from a dark room into a lit room, you're not going to have any issues with the dot stuttering on you, or the refresh rate screwing up, or you having a problem picking up the dot. Now, for home defense purposes, would this be recommended? I know these, I've heard these work really well with light. I don't know from personal experience. I haven't had a chance to run one of these in a low light class yet. But just the general field of vision size, it gives you a lot of choices. You get a lot of peripheral vision on either side of the optic. So as far as a home defense choice, this is a very good choice. Okay. Now, just personal preference for dedicated home defense gun, I really like the RMRs. My biggest reason for that is it doesn't take up any room at all. It's really simple, it's really straightforward, and it's right there in front of your face. The optics is thin enough that you still have really, really wide peripheral vision. So if I'm going to go in on something and I'm on the dot, this optic doesn't fill up a lot of my vision. I'm on the optic and I can see just fine, but because of the size of the optic, I still see the whole world. Optics can go two ways. They can be super small and super thin, or they can just give you a really wide objective lens, such as the SRS. This particular optic, really small, really right there in front of your face, but you still have a great peripheral vision on either side and above the optic because of its size. Obviously, another choice you have out there is your holographic and your red dot sights, your more traditional battery-powered ones, such as an EOTech. This is the EOTech.
It's the EXPS3.
The EX.
This is the new 2015 EOTech 518. It retails for $539. It's basically very similar to the 512. What they've done is they've actually moved the buttons from the 512 to a side interface and added a quick detach mount. Now, when you add any quick detach mount to any EOTech, it's actually going to raise it up, so you're going to get that third witness, or 1/3 witness, or half witness. There's all kinds of words out in the market for it now. I just call it a third witness. Same exact battery life as your standard EOTech, anywhere from 600 to 800 hours, depending on what brand batteries you use. This one, 2 AA's, just like the 512, very simple. And this is your quick detach right here as well. Same thing with the buttons on the back, like the 512. You turn it up, turns it on, turn it down, turns it on, turns it down. 2 fingers, will press it at the same time, will turn the unit off. But if you want to hit the down arrow last, you'll get an automatic 4-hour shut off. You hit the up arrow last, it gets you automatic 8-hour shut off. So I usually just let it cut off by itself. That's just my opinion though.
My experience with the EOTech goes all the way back to the Army. The Army initially went with the M68 CCOs, and then we switched over to, I think, the 512s, the AA powered ones. Mm-hmm. And then eventually ACOGs got in the mix, and there was just a lot of optics floating around the military, and it became very unit dependent what you had. My experience with the EOTech has been both good and bad. I've had issues with them. For the price and for a home defense gun, for something that you're not going to run really, really, really hard, you can't really beat it. At least in that price range, I think the EOTech is an acceptable choice. I do like the holographic reticle because if I want to go for more precision shooting, or if I'm worried about the mechanical offset, zeroing, I can kind of decide, it's much easier for you to do holdovers with the EOTech reticle versus just a red dot in an RDS. And that's something you definitely have to be concerned about, as you guys learned in my close quarters video on rifle zeros, that your mechanical offset based on your zero distance is going to be dependent. So if you're using an EOTech, obviously on a shotgun you wouldn't be concerned so much with it, but if you're using it on an AR, you have to worry about the mechanical offset for those close range shootings. Example, this is the 512 I was talking about. I have a lot of experience with these. For retail, they're right around in the $450 to $500 range, depending on who you're getting it from. This is a really, really good choice. I would consider mid-range price-wise. Obviously, for some people, for a lot of people, $450 is a lot of money. However, for a home defense gun, you should go with the highest quality that you're able to afford. If you can't get it in a month, you can save it up, get it the next month. It's not so much as a brand name issue as it is just a dependable quality issue. Me personally, I think everybody knows I'm preferential to Trijicon and Aimpoint, but I do like some of the features, like I said, about the EOTechs. It's a very acceptable choice for an optic. Just some other options you have for red dots, especially budget-minded. Starting off with the Vortex Spark. My experience with the Spark has been very positive. I think for the price point, it's a very good optic. It's actually pretty durable. I've had one take some pretty serious hard knocks. Not only did it maintain zero, but it didn't affect the body of the optic really at all. It got a little marring on it, but you know, anything that you're going to use is going to get beat up a little bit. The mounting system that it comes with is pretty stout, pretty stable. Not something you have to worry about. If you like the mount that it comes with, you don't really have to pursue an aftermarket option. The problem with some of your budget optics out there is the optic may be decent, but the mount, they saved a lot of money by not introducing a good mount. The one that comes with the Spark, if you like it, you can definitely keep it. Now the specific details about the Spark.
It's got a 2 MOA dot built in. This is the new Spark 2, which has the new flip caps. It actually comes with 2 different mounts. It comes with the standard co-witness mount and a lower mount.
Oh, okay.
Standard co-witness mount you're talking about is pretty durable. It's actually just a solid aluminum block, and it gives it absolute co-witness.
Awesome. One of my personal favorite optics, I have one of these that I use on review guns just because it's so much easier to take it off, put it back on, move it to another gun, is the Aimpoint Pro. I think it's the most inexpensive Aimpoint they have.
Definitely.
These usually retail for in the $400 range, so it's probably about the same cost as your EOTech, your 512. It's in a more, I would say, compact package given the actual size of the battery compartment. Isn't the majority bulk of the optic. The bulk of the optic is the optic itself. I like these a lot. 2 MOA dot. Battery life is excellent, as it is on all Aimpoint products. And then moving on, you come to your, I believe this is the T2?
Yep, it's T1.
The T1, okay. The T1, using a, actually this is the H1.
That's the H1. Sorry.
Using an H1, you're going to spend more money on these. I believe these are, what, $500-600?
They retail for a little over $6.
Okay, a little over $6. The only real significant difference between the T series and the H series is the H series doesn't have the night vision settings. It doesn't have the 2 night vision settings, and I don't believe it has the same waterproof depth rating. But other than that, it's the exact same optic. Guys, if you don't use night vision, you don't necessarily need to spend the money on the higher model. If you want a micro, but you feel like you have to spend the money on the T model, if you're not going to be doing a lot of stuff in the water and you're not going to be using night vision, I wouldn't really bother spending the money. I'm a huge believer in these. I think these are great. In fact, I know there's some very innovative products coming down the pipeline for this particular line of optics that I'll be telling you guys about in the future. Can't say anything about it now, but it's going to be super cool, and it wouldn't be a game changer, but it's definitely going to be something that you'll want, especially if you shoot on these a lot. Now, in the next video I do with Georgia Optics, I'm going to get some of these optics on the range and show you guys some of the differences and the actual physical pros and cons, depending on what you're expecting to encounter, be it for a home defense rifle, a law enforcement patrol rifle, a general purpose hunting rifle, whatever you plan on doing with it. We're going to take a really close look at some of the differences, and we'll also work in and start looking at in the future the variable mag optics, which I think have a totally different theater, and they have a wider degree of use than just your red dot sight. So I want to thank you guys for your time.
All right, thank you.
And as always, I'm Aaron Cowan with Stage Dynamics. Train accordingly. Push pin. We should. Do you have an optic for this? Because it's
No, I just figured
if
use
you-
it. I got a thing an EOTech work with that one.
And yeah, an EOTech on this would look great. That's like, okay, cool. I was just, yeah.
Maybe
right.
still at the sight mark price point.
Serious face.
Shut up, dude.
So vibrate. I thought that was like a steam whistle.
It was.